Hi guys, welcome back. In one of our previous videos we talked about the distinction between global adjustments, adjustments that will affect every part of the image versus local adjustments that are more targeted. So today I want to show you a few tools located up here that are great for getting various kinds of fine-tuned local adjustments to your images. Um, So we're just going to go through this toolbar. There's a few of these three here that I'll just show very briefly. They're very simple and straightforward. Um, but these three here we'll be spending the majority of our time on. The first one here, the crop tool. This is pretty straightforward. We can resize or reframe our image after we've shot it. If you have the lock here unchecked, you can really recompose it any which way you'd like to. You could choose from a variety of different frame aspect ratios and proportions. We could choose this large format that's normally associated with 4x5 and 8x10 cameras. We could pick square. These here are associated with TV and film frame rates or frame proportions. Let's go back here to our original. That's pretty straightforward. If you hover right here and you get the curved arrows, you can rotate. So if you have minor things to crop, maybe you have something, an architectural shot that needs a little straightening out, sometimes all you need is this here. There's other more powerful tools further down that can deal with that, but this one, if it's just something small and quick, you can do it here. Spot removal. This would be if there was something in the frame that you don't want there. Let's say the leg of a light stand or some dust or something like that. This tool will remove those. Let's zoom into the image and find something that we could remove. Let's say his head right here, just to show you what this does. We have two options, clone or heal. Use the bracket keys on your keyboard. You can change the size of the brush, or you can drag the slider here. I prefer to have my brush somewhere near the area that I'm going to be spotting, and then use the bracket keys personally. But let's just say we wanted to remove his face or something like that. Let's go to clone, and I'll just click here. What it's doing is sampling from this other area of the photo and replacing what is underneath the brush with this. But I can also click here and drag, and I can really put anything I want into this area of the brush. I could put her hat, I could put a tree, really anything. That's how the tool works. This is not how we would generally be using this. I'll show that more in another video where we'll try it out on some images with some dust and things like that, things that need to be removed from the photo. But just to give you an idea of what this is. Red eye correction, I think we mentioned before, if you're shooting with some sort of point and shoot camera with a flash directly above the lens, you would be using this. I've never had to use it because my camera doesn't have a flash on it, and I generally only use off-camera flash when I need light. So this may not be one that you use very often, but that's where it's located if you do. But these three right here are the ones that I'd like to take a look at today. We have our graduated filter, we have a radial filter, and we have the adjustment brush. So let's zoom back out of this image here, and let's say I've done some retouching and I've got this part of the image looking the way I'd like it to, but I want to deal with just this area here. I'd like to darken this maybe raise or lower the contrast. One way I can do it is with the graduated filter. So as you see, once I click here on the little rectangle, I have all these tools available at my disposal. Let's just zero that out. And I like to dial in some sort of a value so that when I place the filter on, I can see it really easily. So if we click, hold it down, and drag, you can see we have the ability to position this filter anywhere, rotate it, so if we wanted it at an angle. But you can see this filter is the affected area. It's lowering the exposure by 4 stops. I'm not actually going to do that, but it helps me see exactly where it's going to fall. So I'm still holding down the button and dragging. And let's put it right about here. And now that I have the filter where I want it, let's zero that out. And I would like to change the exposure a little bit, but I think I'd also like to increase the saturation just to bring out the sky a bit more. We can change the white balance of the sky, so I could cool it off, make it look even more blue. I could warm it up. That tends to kind of wash out our colors, since that is it was recorded as a blue. So I can take it this way and just subtly squeeze a little bit more blue out of that. We can darken the exposure a little bit, increase the contrast. It's one option. And we can, we don't really need to sharpen this as it's mostly smooth tone here. We could adjust the highlights down a little bit, see if that gives us a little bit more cloud detail, and I can see there's a little bit of kind of some haze that comes in here, but it gives the sky a little bit more interest, I think. You can see if we drag the filter down in here, some of these changes start to, the adjustments we've made are beginning to be applied to the mountain as well. You can see this is where it begins to feather in, and this is where the effects are at full strength. And so that's the graduated filter. It's a relatively simple one. It's very similar to, you can buy neutral density filters that are called graduated neutral density filters, and it's the kind of filter that has either a neutral tone, hence the name neutral density, that would just change the exposure in the sky, or it might have some sort of color. Those are common filters that you can buy that they sort of fade out to clear glass, so you'd apply them just to one area, usually skies or things like that. This gives us a little more power. We can change just the exposure, contrast, these 4 segments of our tone curve. We can adjust clarity, so we can change these and have some different values for the rest of the image. That is one way to use the tool. The other way we could adjust, get something kind of like this, would be, let's go back. Next we have the radial filter. This is another way to do it. So again, we have basically the same tools at our disposal. We can control the amount that it feathers. Is the edge of the filter going to be very hard edged, or is it going to sort of blend softly? I'll show you what invert mask does in a moment here. But if you click, hold it down, and drag, you can see we have a filter that is darkening the exposure outside of the filter area by 4 stops. So let's drag that. We can reposition it. We can rotate it. So let's say, for instance, we just wanted to protect maybe this lake area down here. You can size this accordingly. Let's go back here. I don't really want 4 stops darker exposure out there. But let's say we do want to bring it down a little bit, just a little bit. We can change the white balance like we did before. That gave us a little bit slightly bluer sky. We can increase the saturation a bit. It's not affecting this area in here, just everything outside of it. We could give it a little bit more clarity, do what we did with the highlights before. So I'm getting a little bit more variations in here in the sky. And we could even sharpen this area differently. We could have a lot of sharpness, could have none at all. We have some noise reduction tools, things like that. Here's where this comes in handy, invert mask. Maybe we wanted to only affect this area in here. We could do that if we wanted to. So that is basics of the radial filter. I'd actually like to do this with it. You can see with sharpness at -100, it defaults right around here in the middle at 0. So with a positive value, it gets sharper. With a negative value, it starts to get softer. So if we wanted to replicate some sort of focus blur, we could do that here. I prefer to do those in camera, but sometimes you might have some little detail that you need to soften a bit so that it's less, grabs less attention. So you could do that here. Let's just zero that out. Let's look for another image that would be a good example for use with the radial filter. We've got this one hot area here. Let's bring this in, grab a radial filter and drag over it. And we're definitely going to be inverting this mask so that it applies to the inside of it, not the outside. Check that box. Let's go up here. We don't want to darken it that much, but let's see. And in this particular image, that area is totally blown out. So trying to darken that is not going to do anything but make this go gray. But let's go back here. We could use this if we wanted to darken the sides. It already does that somewhat, but we could exaggerate that a bit. Let's reposition this, and maybe we want to keep our attention in here. Not too much, because we don't want to see the filter. We can take the shadows down, just to make this a bit more dramatic than it is. So that gives you an idea of some of the kinds of things you can do with a radial filter. And let's see, let's go back to the beginning here. Next we've got the adjustment brush.